In the village of Okomadu, Tunde had always been known as a brave and skilled hunter. But despite his prowess, he felt there was something more he was destined for. His heart yearned for adventure beyond the familiar forests and fields. Tunde often spent time with his closest friends, Kofi, Binta, and Amina, laughing and telling stories around a crackling fire. But tonight was different. The moon hung heavy in the sky, casting an ethereal glow over the trees. The air was thick with a strange energy, and even the usually playful banter between his friends felt subdued. Tunde's mind was far away, captivated by the tales Baba Ogan, the village elder, had shared earlier that day. Deep within the heart of the forbidden forest, Baba Ogan had said, his voice low and ominous, lies a treasure hidden by the gods themselves. A diamond that glows like the stars, said to grant immense power to whoever finds it. Tunde's curiosity had been piqued. He knew the dangers of the forbidden forest, but the thought of the diamond called to him. If he could find it, he could change his fate and bring glory to Okomadu. As the fire crackled and his friends joked, Tunde's decision solidified in his mind. He had to find the diamond. "Are you with us, Tunde?" Kofi's voice snapped him out of his thoughts. Tunde looked around at his friends, the warmth of their laughter momentarily grounding him. But his heart was set. "I'm going into the forbidden forest," he announced, his voice steady despite the unease that settled over the group. Kofi's smile faltered. "You're not serious, are you?" "No one who goes in there comes back." "I have to," Tunde replied. "There's something waiting for me." Binta frowned, concern etched on her face. "Tunde, Baba Ogan warned us. The forest is cursed." But Tunde's mind was made up. With a determined nod, he stood. "I'll return by dawn. If I'm not back, then I've met my fate." Without waiting for further protest, Tunde grabbed his spear and made his way toward the edge of the village. The night was eerily quiet as he entered the forest, the dense canopy blocking out most of the moonlight. Shadows danced between the trees, and every rustle of leaves made his heart race. For hours, Tunde trekked deeper into the forest, guided only by an instinct he couldn't explain. The trees loomed larger, their twisted branches like skeletal hands reaching toward him. The deeper he went, the more the forest seemed to close in around him. Just as fatigue began to creep into his bones, Tunde saw it. In the distance, through a thicket of vines, a faint glow pulsed. His heart skipped a beat. The diamond. With renewed energy, Tunde pushed through the underbrush, his breath quickening as the light grew brighter. And then, in a small clearing, he saw it, the diamond, nestled within the roots of a massive tree, glowing like a beacon in the night. It was breathtaking. Larger than any jewel he had ever seen, it emitted a soft, mesmerizing light that bathed the entire clearing in an otherworldly glow. Tunde's heart raced as he approached, feeling the warmth of its power. But as his fingers brushed the diamond, an eerie wind swept through the clearing, and the once peaceful forest seemed to shudder. Tunde froze, his hand hovering above the glowing stone. "Tunde of Okomadu," her voice boomed, sending chills down his spine. It was deep, melodic, and seemed to come from everywhere at once. "You have found what was hidden for centuries. But do you know the weight of what you now hold?" Tunde's mouth went dry, his heart pounding. "Who speaks?" he called out, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at him. "I am the guardian of the stone," the voice replied, echoing through the trees. "This diamond holds the power of the gods. It is not meant for mortal hands." Tunde's mind raced. The power of the gods. He could hardly believe it. This diamond could change his life, bring prosperity to his village, and make him the most powerful warrior in the land. But the guardian's words carried a heavy warning. "If I return it," Tunde asked cautiously, "what will become of me?" The voice hummed in the air. "You will remain as you are, a mortal, bound by the laws of man. But if you keep it, you will wield unimaginable power. Yet know this, mortal, once the path is chosen, there is no turning back." Tunde swallowed hard, his gaze fixed on the glowing diamond. The thought of such power was intoxicating, but Baba Ogan's warnings echoed in his mind. What price would the gods demand for such a treasure? Suddenly, a figure cloaked in shadow emerged from the trees, its eyes glowing with the same ethereal light as the diamond. The air grew heavy, and the forest seemed to hold its breath. The choice must be made, the figure said, its voice like thunder. Keep the stone, and the world will change. Return it, and you will remain as you are. Tan's mind swirled with possibilities. He thought of his village, his friends, and Baba Ogan's wisdom. Was he truly ready to bear the consequences of keeping the diamond? With a deep breath, Tan finally spoke, his voice steady but filled with determination. I choose. He paused, feeling the weight of his words. I choose to return the diamond. The shadowy figure stood silent for a moment, then slowly nodded. You have chosen wisely, it said, and the glow of the diamond began to fade. The warmth that had filled Tan's body ebbed away, and the figure dissolved into the shadows, leaving him alone in the clearing. But as the forest grew quiet once more, Tan felt a sense of peace. He had resisted the temptation of power, upholding the balance between mortals and gods. As he turned to leave, the guardian's voice echoed one last time. Though you returned the diamond, your courage has not gone unnoticed. The gods will reward you in ways you cannot yet imagine. The clearing was silent once more, and Tan made his way back to the village, the first light of dawn breaking through the trees. His friends were still gathered around the dying fire, their laughter continuing as if no time had passed. Tan, you're back. Kofi exclaimed. What did you find? Tan smiled softly, glancing back at the forest. Nothing that concerns us anymore, he replied. But deep inside, he knew that this was only the beginning of a much greater journey, a journey that would take him far beyond the boundaries of Okomadu, into realms where mortals and gods crossed paths. Tan's return to the village was celebrated, though no one but his closest friends knew of the adventure he had undertaken. Life in Okomadu resumed its usual rhythm, yet Tan couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. The encounter in the Forbidden Forest, the voice of the Guardian, and the decision he made weighed on him, but there was also a strange peace that lingered in his heart. One evening, several weeks later, Tan sat by the river that flowed through the village. The setting sun cast a golden hue over the water, and the sound of rushing streams was soothing. His mind drifted back to that fateful night in the forest, and he wondered what kind of reward the gods had in store for him, if any. As Tan sat lost in thought, a ripple disturbed the calm surface of the river. He stood up, peering closely at the water, when suddenly, a figure emerged. It was a woman, her skin shimmering like the river itself. Her eyes glowed with the same light he had seen in the diamond. Who are you? Tan asked, startled by her appearance but not entirely afraid. The woman stepped closer, her feet barely touching the ground as she moved toward him. I am Nala, she said, her voice as fluid as the river's current. The gods have sent me. Tan's heart quickened. Sent you for what? Nala smiled, a mysterious glint in her eyes. The reward for your choice, Tan of Okomadu. You have been chosen for a greater purpose. The gods are preparing you for something beyond this world. Tan swallowed hard, remembering the guardian's words. What do the gods want from me? They want you to be their messenger, Nala replied. To bridge the world of mortals and the divine. There are forces at play, Tan, that are beyond the understanding of your people. A great darkness is coming, and the gods need someone who can navigate both realms to stand against it. Tan's mind raced. Darkness. A messenger of the gods. It all sounded impossible, yet deep down, he knew that his life had been leading to this moment. I'm just a hunter, he said, shaking his head. Why me? Nola's expression softened. Because you are brave. You have a heart that seeks justice, and you understand the weight of power. The gods do not choose lightly, Tan. They saw your strength when you returned the diamond. You resisted temptation where many would have faltered. Tan was silent, absorbing her words. The weight of this new responsibility settled on him like a heavy cloak, but there was also a sense of purpose that ignited within him. What must I do? He asked, his voice steady. Nala reached out and placed a hand on his chest. A surge of energy coursed through him, and in that moment, he felt a connection to something vast and ancient, something that stretched beyond the mortal world. You will know in time, Nala whispered. But first, you must prepare. The darkness will come soon, and when it does, you will need to gather allies. The gods will guide you, but you must be ready to make hard choices. Tunde nodded, his resolve hardening. He had faced the unknown in the forbidden forest, and now he would face it again, but this time, with the power of the gods behind him. As Nala began to fade, her form shimmering like mist, she spoke one last time. Remember, Tunde, the fate of not just Okomadu, but the entire world may rest in your hands. And then she was gone, leaving Tunde standing alone by the river, the weight of his new destiny pressing down on him. Over the next few days, Tunde felt the changes taking place within him. His senses grew sharper, his strength increased, and he could feel a connection to the natural world that he had never experienced before. He could hear the whispers of the wind, the pulse of the earth beneath his feet. The gods had indeed touched him. But with this new power came new dangers. Strange occurrences began to happen in the village. Crops withered without explanation, animals disappeared, and an unnatural chill settled over Okomadu at night. The villagers whispered of curses and angry spirits. Tunde knew this was the beginning of the darkness Nala had spoken of. One night, as the village gathered for an emergency council meeting, Baba Ogan, the elder, stood to speak. His weathered face was lined with worry. "There is a great evil stirring," he said gravely. "I have felt it in my bones. We must protect Okomadu." The villagers murmured in agreement, but fear rippled through the crowd. Tunde stepped forward. "I will protect the village," he announced. "The gods have chosen me for this task." All eyes turned to him, some in awe, others in doubt. Kofi, Binta, and Amina stood by his side, their faces filled with determination. Baba Ogan looked at him long and hard, then nodded. "If the gods have chosen you, Tunde, then we'll follow your lead." And so, under the cover of night, Tunde and his friends set out on a new journey, to find the allies Nala had spoken of, and to prepare for the battle against the darkness that threatened not only Okomadu but the world beyond. They ventured far from their village, encountering other lands and people, some who joined their cause, and others who tried to stop them. Along the way, Tunde learned more about the ancient powers at work and the true nature of the darkness they were up against, a force older than the gods themselves. But Tunde's resolve never wavered. He had chosen the path of the gods, and he would see it through, no matter the cost. As the final battle loomed on the horizon, Tunde stood at the edge of the world, knowing that the fate of everything rested in his hands. He was no longer just a hunter from Okomadu. He was the chosen one, and his story was only just beginning. This leaves room for future expansions where Tunde continues his journey as a divine hero.